What's up, my friend? Welcome back to another video. So today, we're taking a look at Orchestral Tool's newest library called Peteris Vasks Strings. Apologies if I butchered the name, I do apologize, but this library is brand new and it's super cool because it's kind of similar to the Salut Talon series where it's very characterful. There's strings in there and it's very ethereal in nature, very similar to those libraries as well. And so when this came out, I was immediately kind of interested, specifically due to the first chairs, which we will take a look at in a little bit. So big thanks to OT for sharing a copy with me, as well as 3 giveaway copies to give away as well. So stick around to the end for those details. Really excited to give this library away to you guys as well. So without further ado, let's kind of just dive in. So as you can see here, the intro offer is 449 euros and the regular price is 549. And you can read some of the details here. These are basically contemporary chamber strings, so not just with chord articulations, but they've also sampled some gestures with some unique glissandos and things like that. You can read all about the highlights here. And then there are dedicated solo first chair strings as well, with 3 legato styles for the solo instruments, and then 3 dynamic layers for the ensemble sustains basically in the legato. And it's really interesting with concertino. They basically, on the lowest layer, they put in concertino for all these strings, and then the middle layer, I think they took away some of the concertino, so it's a mix of with mute and without mutes, and then the top layer is without any mutes whatsoever. And so when you transition between them, you're not just getting the volume difference, but also the timbral differences between the strings without and with mutes. So it's pretty interesting. 6 mic positions recorded at St. John's Church in Latvia. Lots of different things that you can go over here just to see how in-depthly sampled. That's not even a word, but there you go. And then you can read a little bit more about what it's all about there. And so, yeah, let's kind of just dive on in. Let's take a look at the library here. We can see it's structured very, very simply. They have ensembles and first chairs with very evenly distributed sampling techniques, I would say. So here you can see I've only downloaded the violins 1 gestures and the first chair gestures only for the first violin, just because I know for my purposes I probably won't be using the gestures all that much. I prefer to use the chord articulations in most of my writing, so that's just a personal preference, but you can certainly download the entire library with all the gestures for all the different instruments. It's completely up to you. And speaking of which, I've also only downloaded 2 mic positions, the spot and the tree cardioid, just because I typically only like to download, 1 close and 1 far for the ambience. And then I like to mix those together for a little bit of flexibility. I certainly don't need all the mic positions. For me, I don't have unlimited storage space, so I just like to keep things simple on my end. But for the sake of this video, I will go over some of these gestures so we can hear them. And but the majority of it will focus on the legato. Okay, so without further ado, let me just dive in. Here are the violins 1, and let's play the legato. And then we'll go through all the different articulations, and then we'll share our thoughts. So here we go. Here's the violins 1 legato. And there we go. That's most of the core set of the articulations. And so basically you get a very more or less comprehensive set of them here. For me, the main standouts are definitely the legato though. So the regular legato and the whisper legato specifically is very, very quiet, as you can hear there. This is all out of the box. I didn't do any mixing or anything whatsoever. It really has just that really whispered touch, but it also sounds really quiet too. But in terms of comparing like this legato style to previous OT releases, to me, this is probably one of the best legato approaches that I felt. It definitely feels the most playable. It doesn't make me like nervous when I'm about to transition to a note. It connects really cleanly, and because this library is so intimate, the legato transitions really have nowhere to hide here. You know, because the performances are so close up and sort of intimate, you really do get those exposed legato transitions a bit more upfront, and so they're connected very smoothly. And I also really love the dynamic, like we talked about, the concertino management system. You know, taking some concertino off and then the top layer not having any concertino is really nice to have as well. So yeah, that being said, let me just, oh, by the way, that was all with the spot and the tree cardioid together. Let me just solo the mic positions really quickly. So here's what the spot sounds like on its own. Let me go back to the regular legato here. Yeah, I do feel like the close mic positions have gotten a lot better from OT over the years. Like, especially from the Berlin series a decade ago, they were quite like mono and quite collapsed. And so you didn't really want to use the close mics on their own. But nowadays, with the spot and close microphones, they do have a lot of that detail, but the legato sampling is also translating quite well to those closer positions as well. So I feel more confident using those in combination with the more ambient ones, you know? If I wanted a slightly more warm sound, I think I might also download the ribbon mic. That's also a great alternative option here. But again, I've only downloaded spot and tree cardioid for my purposes. And then one more quick thing to note is the rebo, the same note rebo. Traditionally, you would need to press down the sustain pedal to kind of activate that, but in this library at least, you don't even need to do that. As long as you replay the same note within a very quick amount of time, the rebo you're going to hear there. I wasn't using any sustain pedal whatsoever. So it's great, of course, that it's sampled. And to me, it sounds pretty convincing in this library. Okay, let me quickly go over some of these gestures here, and then we'll move on to the other sections here. So we'll start with some finger tremolos, and then we'll do some glissando stuff. Yeah, out of all these different effects, I definitely think the accelerando climax, the one we just heard, is the coolest one. So they basically start on one single note, they kind of rebow, they accelerate, right? And then they do this glissando sweep all the way up to a high first inversion chord. And then here you have major at the bottom and minor at the very top, which is really nice. But yeah, the overall effects, I haven't really heard sampled before in any other sample library. So this is really, really cool. The majority of them are very unique. Even the runs, like you would expect it just to be maybe just an octave up or an octave down, but this one basically goes up an octave and a half and then resettles down on the tonic note. So for example, it goes from C, but not to C, it goes up to a G, so an octave and a half, and then it goes back down to a C. Really nice. Okay, let's move on to the more core set here. Let's just do violin 2. Let's hear the legato, then we'll finish the rest of the sections off. All right, and there we go. So yeah, lovely sounds. I think the violas definitely sound the most washed out though. Even though I've downloaded the same mic positions for all these different instruments, the violas definitely feel a bit, pushed back a little bit more compared to the other ones, which have more of an intimate upfront sound. But that's just a little quick thing I noticed there. But otherwise, they all are very consistently sampled across all the different articulations. As you can see, they all have the basic set, and the gestures, I assume, are very consistent as well. So are the basses here. Basses naturally will have a few less articulations. Okay, let's move on to the first chairs. Here is my main draw to the library. So let me just play the legato here. The main difference here is that the legato styles are 3 instead of just 1 in the ensemble library. Well, actually 2 because there's sustains whispered as well. But here in the first chairs, we have the sustains lyrical, which is meant for more mezzo forte, mezzo piano lyrical lines. Then we have expressive, which is more forte, fortissimo. It's still that one dynamic layer, but just performed in that register. And then the saltasto legato is meant for more piano, mezzo, pianissimo sort of stuff. So let's hear those a little bit. Let me start with the lyrical legato. Then we'll hear the expressive, which is louder, and then saltasto, which is the quietest. So here is the lyrical. All right, there we go. So yeah, the three legato styles really are for me the standouts here. And so for most of my purposes, I think I would probably mix between the lyrical and the expressive. The expressive again has a very more, a much more passionate sound compared to the lyrical. The lyrical is indeed quite quiet compared to the expressive, so you will have to kind of turn it up and make sure if you want to save on resources as well, you can bounce the track to audio and then automate the volume so that maybe the expressive is a bit quieter when it's playing compared to the lyrical out of the box, or vice versa. Okay, let's go through the gestures really quickly here. These are all pretty similar for the violins section, so it's pretty much identical just for solo instruments. Yeah, cool stuff. All right, let's move on to the violin 2, and let's hear the expressive legato there, and then we'll hear the viola as well. So here's the violin 2 expressive legato. Yeah, one thing I forgot to mention is that for the first chair, violin 1, expressive legato, there was a mix of slurred transitions and fingered transitions. And I don't know if there's bow change stuff happening there too, but for the slurs, naturally you're going to not be able to play as fast because they take more time to transition between the two notes, right? So this violin 2 first chair, at least for the expressive legato, it feels like there's more fingered changes, and so naturally you can play a little bit faster because the transition happens more immediately. Whereas for the first chair, the first violin, there's a little bit more of the slur transitions in there too, so it's maybe a little bit less flexible, but maybe meant for more medium slow melodies if you want that sort of thing. And because these are more first chairs anyway, they're not meant for, you know, super exposed solo string stuff in the first place. Maybe you want to layer them with the ensembles. Maybe you want to turn them up slightly in a fuller mix if you want a bit more of that detail. But like I mentioned before, the legato is quite well done here, and for solo strings, it's not easy to do. There are still some audible bumps and swells here and there as you hear the, you know, the end of the transition sample crossfade into the regular sustain sample. You still are going to get those artifacts, but in the context of a fuller mix, it might not be as noticeable. So props to OT for, you know, stepping up their legato game. Good stuff. All right, here's the viola. Cello. All right, so both instruments sound beautiful. Viola and cello both sound great with their legato. You can't play as fast as trill speed though. We just demonstrated that. You heard that it sounded kind of weird, so you might have to key switch to a quick trill before going back to the legato, but just keep that in mind. These are not really meant for trill playing. They're meant for more expressive lyrical melodic lines, and you know, because they're more fingered in these instruments, you can play slightly faster, but not overly fast. Okay, let's hear the bass legato as well. This one doesn't have very much vibrato. I wish it did, but let's have a quick listen. So you can hear it's more of a straight performance there without vibrato. I wish there was again, but you know, maybe it would have been nice if they had an expressive legato style, but because it's a double bass, I guess they didn't want to sample too much of it. And here we can see what it comes with here. So basically it just has the lyrical legato there, but having a vibrato sort of switch would be great for that as well. Okay, that was basically all of the expressive legato. Let's hear a few more of the lyrical ones. Here's the viola lyrical legato. All right, and then the cello lyrical legato. Yeah, the lyrical really has a beautiful quality to it. Like you can hear that there's vibrato, but it's not as passionate as the expressive. So really great scripting there and performances there from these instrumentalists and the team. Okay, finally, let's hear the soltato legato in the cello. We are going to expect it to be pretty quiet, so I'm going to turn up the volume a little bit more here. All right, so there's the library in a nutshell. Again, I didn't go over much of the gestures because just personally, I don't want to fill up my hard drive space with stuff that I know I'm not really going to use, but we did go over some of them. You could hear what they sound like, and in the appropriate situations, if you want sort of that ethereal nature, if you want some aleatoric effects, things like that, these could certainly fit your bill. And definitely watch the full walkthroughs on the OT channel if you want to get into that a little bit more. But my favorites of this library are definitely the first chair legato styles. I love that there's a different legato performance for expressive lines that are a bit more loud and passionate, and ones that are a little bit more pulled back and lyrical. Really nice to have that difference there. And of course, the soltato legato is a nice icing on the cake. Definitely great for maybe a bit more mellow of a lyrical line there. But generally, great stuff. The legato scripting has definitely stepped up since a lot of their previous releases. And so a lot of these instruments, because they're so exposed, there really is nowhere to hide. And I just love that they really lead into it, and the sampling kind of speaks for itself. So great stuff. Thank you again, OT, for sharing a library. Let's quickly get into the giveaway. The first thing you have to do is fill out the form below in the description box. Just enter your details there, and then you'll be automatically entered into the system. And I'll reach out within a couple of days letting you know who the winners are. Number 2 is to leave a comment under this video and let me know why you want this library. What would you use it for? What draws your attention to it? What are your favorite patches? I would love to know what your thoughts are on this library. And third and finally, just leave a like on the video. It greatly helps, and it's always appreciated. So thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. I'll catch you in the next one, and take care. Bye-bye.